Ripple me this, riddle me that. The clues are falling like raindrops going splat. Hey folks, Sam I am, and boy has it been an interesting day today. We've just been flooded with events and interesting things happening in the XRP community and the Ripple ecosphere. I want to start out though with something that we missed from the Born of Stars video, the last Ripple Riddler video that they released. If you remember, there was this Hubble telescope, and there was the Morse code that decoded to the presidential quote. We'll get into that. But several people wrote and said, it was broken recently and it failed or something like that. And I didn't look into it. I totally should have. I saw a post this morning on Facebook that just somebody had posted, and I dug into it and found out that, oh man, this is loaded with clues from the Bee Gees. So essentially what happened is in 2009, they did a mission where they went in and replaced the 6 gyros in the Hubble telescope. And this was, of course, right after the financial crisis of 2008. So they put all these new components in, and since that time, 2 of the gyros had already failed, and the third one failed and put the Hubble into safe mode where it points to the sun and tries to charge the batteries. And then they had a backup reserve. So it either runs with 3 gyros or with 1. In 1, it's very limited capacity. When you're looking at stuff that's far away, we're moving, it's moving. It's got to do some very precise tracking, and it can't do that with 1 gyro. So it needs the 3 in order to be fully functional. It's not right now. And when they turned up the reserve gyro that had been sitting for, I think, 7.5 years, something like that, it had problems. It was reporting a higher rotation than what it actually should have. And so what they did is came up with a plan. They power cycled it, so they turned it on and off. Now, I've been talking to you guys a long time about Ripple needing to warm up the liquidity pools, ensure that they're properly sized, that they've identified and eliminated the bottlenecks before this thing goes live, because they can't have it fall on its face. They've really got to be good to go right out of the gate. So clearly they're going to do some live testing. I've suggested that they were doing that with SBI when it went up 6% inside of 2 hours. We also had the big run up before Swell, where it doubled in XRP doubled in value, but more importantly, the volumes went from being under 1 billion a day to, I think, 1.5 billion to, I think it might have even gotten close to 3 billion in a day in a 24-hour period. But getting back to this, so what they did, they power cycled it. That didn't work. Then they came up with a plan. There is this thing called, a wheel inside the gyro spins at a constant rate of 19,200 RPM. The wheel is mounted in a sealed cylinder called the float, or called a float, which is suspended in a thick fluid. Now, let's go to Investopedia and look up what is a company's float. The term float refers to the regular shares a company issues to the public that are available for investors to trade. A company's float is an important number for investors because it indicates how many shares are actually available to be bought and sold by the general investing public. So float equals XRP liquidity and circulating supply. So again, another tie-in where they're telling us through this Hubble telescope clue and the events behind it that absolutely they've been testing XRapid, they've been doing live testing, they've been identifying, and what they're talking about here is they think that some debris was stuck, that it was causing problems or whatever, and they basically did some maneuvers where they turn it this way, and then they give it the command to turn as sharply as it could the other way, and then they turn it this way and do that, hoping to sort of dislodge whatever was stuck in there. And it was successful. They've gotten it up and running. But, we also, in the last video, I talked about the IMF and the SDR and a lot of the problems that we have with the dollar, that the world has with the dollar. It's working, it's acting as the global reserve currency, but it's got problems, and we talked through some of those in the last video. So here, another analogy is Hubble telescope is working, it's functioning, but it's reaching end of life. It's time for, to jump to something new. If it can't be repaired, it's going to be, it's working in reduced capacity and it's nearing end of life. So another very perfect tie-in with the dollar. So several meanings, I'd say at least 3 solid ones in there that tie in the X-rapid testing with the Hubble telescope, which is exactly what this clue was all about. Okay, now we had a new entrant into the XRP ecosystem. You're going to recognize some stuff here. Let's watch.
The standard of the Internet of Value.
That should look familiar. Let's go back to the Ripple Riddler page here. Go back to this TikTok video. Remember this? Almost identical. Now, it pretty much is identical. Some people are like, oh, well, clearly this company, XRP United, is the one behind the Ripple Riddler, and bullshit. They wouldn't know about the counting crows at Swell and a lot of the other clues and things that the Ripple Riddler and the BGs have clued us into. But these models are available. You can go download them from a website for all the planets in the solar system. This is where Hollywood gets their fly-ins for sci-fi movies and so forth. And all they did was add a color key to change the white to the purple. Now, another thing you notice here is this text and these symbols and shapes and so forth. Let's go to XRP United's LinkedIn profile. View the image in the background here. Oh, that looks familiar. We've got symbols. We've got faded, blurred text that's a little more opaque in the background. If you remember this one, same thing. Blurred text in the background. Now this one's a cipher. We haven't cracked that, but I'm betting it gives us some clues about XRP United a couple months ago being on the way. So there's another one, another tie-in. Let's keep going with this video.
Global liquidity to any market, any country, any place, anywhere. Fully exchangeable to any currency.
As soon as I saw that, I thought, wait a minute. Let's go back to, or actually, yeah, we were in the right place. Right here. Remember, I talked about I didn't know what this grid was all about. So it's apparently 2 things. One, there's the dates. People think that these are dates. 11/11 is one of them, and 11/10. One of those, I forget which, and also 11/1. Anyway, there's a lot of people that point out that the Masons really like the number 33. There's the 33rd degree Mason is the highest level. And if you go back to the 1010 date, which is one of the other ones that's in here, that was when, we had the coin on the Phoenix that was telling us the New World global currency is coming 1010. And that's when the market started to tank, and they're bringing down the markets. That's continued. And 33 days after that is, I think, 11/11. So that's when a lot of the people who follow the elites and the Masons and all that stuff think that we'll see the next leg down. I don't know exactly what that's going to be, but we're looking for something significant to happen on that day, probably related to bringing XRP out front and center. Maybe not. We'll see. But again, that I think that's what the grid was showing us is dates, and then the stacked meaning on that was also tying back to the grid right here. Now, we also had the violin player that I wasn't sure what this guy was all about. And in my video, let's see, yeah. Somebody commented and said the violinist is Yehedu, a famous American-born violinist and conductor. Here's one of his quotes. The violin, through the serene clarity of its song, helps to keep our bearings in the storm. As a light in the night, a compass in the tempest, it shows us a way to a haven of sincerity and respect. And he says, I think it goes well with the storm theme that the video or in that video, and the William McKinley's quote, in the time of our darkest defeat, victory may be near. Also, there was an article published in the Telegraph 2 years ago titled, The Violinist Who Changed the World. That's exactly what that was about. So there's the other component to that. Still not sure about scaling down or going down the piano, if that's moving down the road, moving down the scale, scaling. If it was going the other way, scaling up, it would make perfect sense to me, but I don't think that's exactly it. I'm still not sure what that is. There's also people that suggest the lightning is like Africa or faces. People are seeing different things in there. Maybe this background is a generic background that they used with the, let me go back here. I guess it's probably a little easier to see. Well, anyway, the trees and the clouds and stuff is a generic background. There we go. But the piano player was added and the lightning was added. So they very well could have hidden some clues in the lightning itself. Just throwing that out there. So, okay, let's keep going. Back to the XRP United video.
Commodity.
Now, what they've just told us, it's going to be a global exchange for all your currencies, assets, private island, stocks, private shares, companies, land, real estate, wheat, soybeans, gold, sugar, crude oil, coffee beans, commodities. So currency, assets, commodities, all traded on the blockchain through or on ILP, probably through XRP. And I've also talked about the other worlds, meaning Ripple creates or sort of takes over the commodities and the futures market by using Codius and smart contracts. Now, apparently that's not all the way complete, and there's some modules or something that they need. If anybody has done a deep dive on that, I haven't, please kind of bring us up to speed in the comments to this video. I'd really appreciate it. But again, it shows exactly what we've been talking about. They're just taking it all over. It's going to be the global reserve currency. It's going to take over the commodities market. It's going to be absolutely incredible. And it's also very interesting to see here that they've added Monero. Now, I don't know if I'm going to want to buy my Monero on an AMR exchange. I may stick with cash in an envelope from localmonero.org or com, whatever it is. But anyway, good to see it on there for people that don't mind. Okay, let's keep going.
Transactions are settled in 4 seconds.
Settlement, not payment.
XRP is traded 24/7, 365 days a year, everywhere in the world. Removing friction from global trade, removing barriers, removing borders. XRP transfers value anytime and all the time. From you to any place on earth.
Drop the bass. There is a Bearable Guy 123 decoder video where they're talking about people said it would never hit $10. It could never hit $100. It could never hit $1,000, where they're playing the horns of the Romans. Sounds an awful lot like that. Anyway, fascinating video. I'm definitely going to check these guys out and set up an account and see what they're all about. Let's keep going. There's more. Okay, right here on Twitter, Rusty XRP let us know that we have moved to 1.1.1, and what he's talking about is the validator software was upgraded to version 1.1.1. Now, if you remember, we had one of the first clues from the Ripple Riddler was 1.1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3. Listen to what I'm telling thee. So about a week later, the first thing that came out was the 3 preferred liquidity providers that were announced for Ripple. A few days after that, we had the convergence of Xcurrent, XRapid, and XVita. And now, today, number 3 of the 3x3 matrix here, stacked meaning, is they're telling us we're on version 1.1.1 of the validator software. And I think when you take these 3 things together in total, what they're probably letting us know is, folks, we're ready to go. The Armada of utility is on the horizon and will be here very, very soon. So fascinating, another little tie-in there that the BGs gave us. Okay, keep on going. Ant Financial, this is Dilip Rao. He posted yesterday, Ant Financial shares AI tech with banks to reduce microloan approvals from 2 days to 10 seconds. And somebody comments, and Digital Asset Investor covered this and did a great job of it. He's the one that turned me on to it. So someone responded, and does that microloan require real-time liquidity? And Dilip responds, and you know the fastest way to deliver liquidity? Yes. I think he's having a lot of fun letting us know. What do you think? And he's somebody previously asked him about a Ripple Swift partnership, and of course the answers to that is no. And a lot of the other bloggers out there are like, see, you're wrong, Sam. This is not happening. And of course they don't understand that no, it's not happening with Swift and Ripple. It's happening through Temenos and SAP and Earthport and these payment hubs and so forth. But he famously responded to that question of, no, cool your jets. And so there's all kinds of things about cool your jets down here that are quite funny. Cool your jets. Okay. Now, remember in one of my videos when we were talking about this, at first, previous to this puzzle coming out, I said, I'm sure that Ripple is in the China market. I just don't know how they're getting into the Chinese market. And when this next puzzle came out, we had this little thing right here, this what I thought was a spider at first in the smoke, and there's another one right here, but we realized no, it's an ant, and this is Ant Financial. That is Ripple's path into the Chinese market. And of course, here's one of their executives talking about it and implying with his non-answer that, yeah, it's going to be Ripple providing that liquidity into the Chinese marketplace through the biggest player in China. I mean, this is the biggest company out there. Okay, so we've got that. Now, Temenos released a press release a couple days ago. This is the 22nd at the start of Sibos. This is about the infrastructure renovation is key to their digital strategy, according to this survey. And you have a payment strategist at Temenos letting us know. This report echoes what we are hearing from our payment hub and instant payment clients. The customer is king. Digital is the new norm, and capabilities such as open APIs and instant payments under 5 seconds are no longer differentiators. They are now expected. A truly real-time payments hub beyond just real-time processing means that banks can support this customer requirement now. However, the payments market will evolve further, and banks need infrastructure to adapt accordingly. And then she goes on basically talking about how they put together an ROI model to, I don't know if they're selling this as an add-on module or if it's a upgrade or something like that, but basically telling them how to write up their business case so that they can get the funding approved and get this in place at their bank or FI. So to all the people that are like, oh, partnership's not happening. Yes, it is. This is where it's happening. This is what I've been saying all along. Some of you guys are just so thick-headed. You just can't comprehend what I've said about 5 different ways, 5 different times. other thing that came out 2 days after that is they're talking about pooling cash. And what I think this is going to be is sort of like, kind of like fractional reserve banking, but for XRP. Now, there's no mention of XRP, but I'm going to make that leap of faith or assumption here. And what I think they're going to do is, say one of their clients, their largest transaction might be $10 million that they're going to need for cross-border payments or something like that. They may only have them keep on deposit like $2 million, but give them a credit line of up to $10 million for those payments. So it reduces exposure for the banks. They get a better deal. And also by keeping it in-house, they're lowering costs. They're able to integrate that swap with their customers, faster. They don't have to go to another exchange, which is going to have its own profit center and overhead and so forth. So they're going to reduce exchange costs, and Temenos may be telling us that they're going to be the exchange for a lot of their customers. And it's like with the phone company, if you had a call that was intra-switch, meaning you had one telephone switch that was serving maybe 20, 50, 100,000 customers, if somebody was calling someone on that other customer on that same switch, it would never hit the SS7 network, is what it's called. But if it was going out of state, then it would have to go, or across the LATA lines or whatever, it would have to go to another provider, get transmitted over, carried long distance over the long haul, and then dropped off with that customer. So if they've got 4,000 banks or a huge chunk of the banking market, and their liquidity pool is common to all of these banks around the world, that gives them some tremendous advantages. And a lot of these transactions never really have to leave the Temenos ecosphere, in a sense. I'm not sure exactly how that would work, but again, I think it's an advantage, and I think it's definitely directly related to XRP. So that's it. Man, there's a lot of stuff here. It's all coming together. We've been waiting and waiting and waiting for November and December to get here. That's when they've told us, the BGs have told us over and over for months now, we've got to wait and just hold your XRP. It's all coming. November and December, amazing things are going to happen. And here we are, 10 days out still, or 6 days out from November. And man, clues are coming in hard and fast. Okay, one last thing. A lot of you have asked me, hey, how do we thank you, whatever. I've met my targets. I'm good. If this does anything like what I think it will, I'm going to be fine. But I have set up a charity account. I think my purpose in life is to really help people. It's something I love doing. These videos are one example of that, helping you guys understand what's coming and see things that are maybe not so apparent and out in the open. I'm good at that. I love doing that, and I love helping others. So I've talked about this in other videos, my own charity account, and I love the idea of a decentralized charity. Again, some of you are doing like Children's Hospital and United Way. Those are all great. And if you want to just do that, that's fine. But I really like the idea, and I encourage you guys to, once you've met your goals, set some funds aside and have that earmarked for charity. And this is my address. I've just got it set up and moved the Tipbot money in there. And Jungle Link's going to, I think, send me some XRP that he converted from donations from the live stream that we did, and that's going to go in there. And I want to use this, down the road to really help people in my local community. If you want to contribute to that, there it is. I'm not even going to ask you to. It's there if you want to. I'll post the address down in the bottom, and I think you'll be able to scan that QR code if you want to do it that way. But again, if you haven't met your targets, don't do it. Just, you got to help yourself before you can help anybody else. So make sure you've got your lifeboat built and you're ready to go. But folks, the Armada of utility is on the horizon. They're coming. They're close. The storm's just about over, and it's going to be some very, very interesting times over the next 2 months. I hope you're ready. I'm Sam I Am. We'll catch you next video.